this is quite a dilemma. What is investing? Investing is positioning capital to benefit from future events. And yet, I insist that we can't know the future. How can we invest? And what the important conclusion from that is that you must not assume that you know what the future holds. If you admit that you don't know what the future holds, then you will invest carefully. You won't bet too heavily on one outcome. You'll spread your risk, diversify, hedge, and have a mixture of investments. The great American humorist Mark Twain said, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for certain that just ain't true." And I think this is very important for your viewers to consider. No sentence that begins with, "I don't know, but," or "I may be wrong, but," ever got anybody into trouble. You get into trouble when you say, "I'm sure that this will happen. I'm certain that that will happen." Because if you are too confident and you bet too much on one outcome and you're wrong, then you can fail. If you admit uncertainty and balance your bets over a number of scenarios, it's highly likely that you will succeed. People rely on forecasts because they do not like to live with uncertainty. There's a quote in the memo: if people didn't have forecasts, something like, if people didn't have forecasts to rely on, they couldn't get out of bed in the morning. It's terrifying to know that you have to live in a world that is unpredictable. But it is, in my opinion. And you have two choices, in my opinion. You can say, the world is unpredictable and we're going to accommodate to that, or we're going to live by predictions. One of my friends, the day the memo came out, one of my friends said to me, "Yes, but you have to take a position, don't you?" My answer is, you don't have to take a position. If there is an event and you have no reason to believe you know what the outcome is going to be, then you shouldn't bet on that event, or you should hedge that event. When Oaktree makes its investments, we merely assume that we don't know what's going to happen in the economy or in the markets, and we take actions which allow for that uncertainty. We all have opinions. I rail against forecasting, but I have opinions. I just don't bet heavily on my opinions. It's one thing to have an opinion. It's something very different to be confident that you're right. And I'm never confident that I'm right. Where we believe we can be right, where we can get an edge and produce superior performance, we hope, is in what I call the micro, not the macro. Macro, for the benefit of your viewers, is countries, economies, currencies, commodities, interest rates, and markets. And really, nobody knows those things better than anybody else. The micro, companies, industries, securities, these are things that through hard work and skill, I think you can get an advantage and do a superior job. So that's where we put our emphasis. But if that is where we're experts, then we shouldn't be betting on economies and interest rates and currencies. Yes, I have lived through a variety of periods, cycles, maybe divided by crises. You know, things go down, up, down, crisis, up, crisis, you know. And I have, my career has been punctuated by 4 crises, 1991, 0102, 0809, global financial crisis, and of course the pandemic. And so for every strategy, for every investment approach, there are times that produce a lot of opportunity, and there are times that are what the farmer would call fallow, slow periods. And you have to know the difference. And you have to wait patiently until the opportunities come along, and then you have to move aggressively to take advantage of the opportunities. And once you do so, and they make you money, and the markets recover, then you should step back again and become patient once again. It's wrong to think that there are always great opportunities. Sometimes there are not. And I believe that the availability of opportunities depends on the market. And it depends, most importantly, on the behavior of other investors. We've gone through a long period from the middle of 2009, the end of the global financial crisis, to early 2020, the beginning of the pandemic. We were in a period where the central banks provided easy money, interest rates were low, financing was easily available to anybody who wanted to get money. People were eager to provide the money. Buyers were enthusiastic. Sellers were complacent. They were not eager to sell. Risk aversion was low. Fear was low. The greatest fear for many of those years was what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. When the market is in this condition, nobody's selling eagerly. Why should prices be low? They shouldn't be. There are no bargains in that climate. That is a time for caution. And you must recognize what's going on. I wrote a memo to my clients in February 2007 called The Race to the Bottom. And it talked about what happens when people have too much money and they're too eager to invest. The opportunities deteriorate. You have to understand the conditions that you're in. And then, usually, they take on too much risk. The structures that they build are too risky. Something happens, some trigger event, and it collapses. Now, everybody's terrified, and nobody's eager to buy. Everybody wants to get out. Fear of losing money replaces fear of missing out. And this is the time when bargains are readily available, but you need the courage. You have to understand what's going on, and you have to have the courage to take advantage of those bargains. And so if you accept that the market fluctuates in this way, cycles we call them, then clearly it's not wise to behave the same all the time. You have to vary your behavior commensurate with what's going on in the cycle. The goal is to be countercyclical. Normally what happens is when things are going well, economic reports are good, companies are reporting good profits, stock prices and security prices are rising. People feel good, they buy. And the higher they go, the more they buy. Then they reach a maximum for some reason. Maybe there's a negative event, or maybe the economy just turns down and the economy is deteriorating and company reports are not as good and stock prices are falling, and now people get depressed and they sell. And the lower the prices go, the more eagerly they sell. This is wrong. What we want to do is buy low and sell high. Human nature causes us to buy high and sell low. So that is what I call pro-cyclical behavior. At minimum, we want to avoid it. And at maximum, we want to do the opposite. Now, it's not easy, because what you have to do is you have to restrain your enthusiasm as things are positive, and you have to turn more positive as things are negative. Very hard to do. Some professionals can do it, not too many amateurs can do it. But at minimum, you want to not be emotional and not succumb to the cycle. So rather than buy high and sell low, maybe you say, I'm just going to hold throughout, you see. So that's obviously better than being pro-cyclical. Of course, the best thing in the world is to be counter-cyclical at the right times, but it's not easy. And people should not try with the money they need. But anyway, my career has basically consisted of these cycles. Investing is a fascinating area, and it's a potentially profitable area, and I recommend it highly, but it should be done on the basis of a strong understanding, and not too many. Many people invest before they have the understanding, and it's not like going to a casino. It's not a game of chance. Mm-hmm. It is a serious pursuit that should be followed on the basis of knowledge. Mm-hmm. In which case, you can count on having a good outcome if you do it wisely. The other thing I want to say about the periods of my life is I came into the investing business, as you indicate, 1969. And we all know, the young people will tell you, that was a dumb world. Nobody knew much. Most people didn't understand how the market works, what makes for an attractive stock or bond. Most people did not have access to information. If you wanted to study a company, you had to send them a letter and ask for the annual report. And then they had to send it back in the mail. It took a long time. And it was easy to get a knowledge advantage just through a little effort. Warren Buffett talks about buying dollars for 50 cents. That's a good thing to do, but it relies on other people who don't understand that those are 50-cent dollars. Fast forward to today. Now everybody has a computer. Everybody's hooked up to the internet. There's lots of data feeds. Everybody understands how the market works. Now the world is a smarter place. And knowledge is cumulative. Everybody knows everything today. So my son pointed out in one of my memos called Something of Value, January of 21, that readily available quantitative information about the present will not be the source of superior profits because everybody has it. In order to have superior profits, you have to have some advantage. You have to know something that the other people don't know or do a better job of interpreting it. Mm-hmm. And so it is competitive and challenging. So what we say in the terminology of our profession is that the markets have become more efficient. The markets now have more information and do a better job of incorporating it. So I would say that it has gotten more challenging over my lifetime. When I started, I joined the industry in 69. I started managing money in 78. I started with high yield bonds. Most people didn't know about them. Most people didn't understand them. Most people were afraid of them. So it was possible for me to get a bargain. Today, all that has changed. Now everybody knows about them and nobody's afraid of them. So why should they be as cheap as they used to be? And the answer is they shouldn't. The market has become more efficient. So I noticed that you have copies of my first book here called The Most Important Thing. And there are 20 chapters, and each one says the most important thing is, and then it's a different thing. Because in investing, there's no one important thing. There are many, and balancing all the considerations is one of the things that makes it challenging. But chapter number 2 says the most important thing is understanding market efficiency. You have to understand the concept that I just explained, and the change in efficiency has been a big marker in my career.
Howard Marks, one of the most respected contrarian investor in the world, has something very important to say about confidence. And it might completely change how you invest. He believes that being too confident is actually dangerous. Why? Because overconfidence leads to overbetting. And overbetting is what causes massive losses. Mark often reminds investors that you can't predict, you can only prepare. Yet most people in the stock market do the exact opposite. They assume they know what will happen next. They assume a company will keep growing. They assume management will always make the right decisions. And they assume the future will look like the past. But here's the truth. We don't know the future. Howard Marks says the biggest investing mistake happens when people confuse probability with certainty. Just because something looks likely does not mean it will happen. He puts it perfectly. Being too far ahead of your time is indistinguishable from being wrong. Instead of making bold predictions, he believes investors should be conservative, especially when it comes to forecasting and market performance. That does not mean being fearful, it means being realistic. Marks encourages investors to study data, understand history, and think in terms of risk, not just returns. In fact, he often says, risk is not what's written in the textbooks. Risk is what's left over when you think you have thought of everything. Think about it. Do we really know how management will perform 5 years from now? Do we really know what regulations, competition, and technology will do to a business? No, right? So why would we bet everything on one outcome? Howard Marks believes that smart investors do not try to be heroes. They try to survive. Because in the stock market, survival is what gives you the chance to compound. As he says, the biggest investing errors come not from factors that are informational, but from those that are psychological. So next time you feel extremely confident about a stock, ask yourself, am I being smart or am I just being overconfident? Because in investing, caution isn't weakness, it's an edge.